So the final 3 kits we're going to do for February are the sort of smaller white Muscari kits. So we've got the little white Muscari trio here in these lovely 8.5 centimetre scalloped kind of terracotta pots. These are my own personal ones. I use them all the time. Every time I have a dinner party or people over for dinner, Sunday lunch, these come out. Hence why they look a bit kind of ragged, but I love them for it. I think they sort of age so beautifully. So that's the little trio. And then we have the large white Muscari kit, which is in this lovely kind of soft dove grey ribbed terracotta pot and saucer. New to Hello Petal for this month, and as I've kind of banged on about in all the other tutorials, just so excited to be able to offer a new colour to our pot kits. And then back to a classic, a Hello Petal favourite, it's the 12 centimetre ribbed rose terracotta pot. So that will be for our little white Muscari kit. Okay, so let's begin. I'm just going to, so as not to repeat myself constantly, I'm going to pot up the large one, and it's exactly the same as the little one, and then I'm also going to pot up the trio. So if you have ordered the little white Muscari kit, it's exactly the same as the large, so just replicate it. The care is all the same, the tips are all the same, and it's the same for this one as well, but I will pot this one up anyway, just so that you've got 2 different options to watch. Okay, so adding in, first of all, our gravel. Just add all that's in your kit. It's not a lot. You don't excuse me, you don't need a lot because we have so much horticultural grit in our compost for this month. You know, it's how bulbs do well with lots of drainage. So just adding in your compost. And then we can start adding in our bulbs. Now I've broken some down already here, but you basically sort of take them apart in essence. So this is sort of how they end up looking, but I'm going to show you how I use, how we break them up for this one, for this, and then I'll use those for that, so I'm not boring you rigid. Okay, so take your Muscari out of its pot after you've given it a nice drink, and then you simply break them down. So break them into individual bulbs. Do this over your pot so this compost goes into the pot in theory, and then you're simply going to pop your bulbs. I make a mess every time. Into the compost. So in your kits you will have, for the little and large, you will have 1 pot, and then in the trio you will have 2 pots of Muscari, which kind of equates to about 4 per pot, but sometimes the pots have more than 6 bulbs in. Sometimes they have 7, so just, you know, if you get a little extra one, then great, just use that. It doesn't matter if they're odd numbers. Okay, so we've got your Muscari planted, and now we can add in the moss. So we have the flat moss, which is this sort of type here. We have the bun moss, which is this kind of type here, and then the sphagnum, which is this kind of gnarly one with all pine needles and things and dried leaves in. So we've used 3 just to create kind of like texture, but as I've said on the other tutorials, I do prefer the flat moss for bulbs, because you can then do this sort of lifting technique, which I'll show you in a moment. So you're just sort of breaking up the moss into little pieces. Let's move that. And then sort of tucking it around, and then in a moment we're going to lift those bulbs up. I personally like it when you can see some of the roots and some of the compost. I think it just adds a lovely kind of different dimension and texture. I'm just taking the root system off the back, satisfying, of the bun moss. So so that it sits a bit flush. And then with the sphagnum moss, I like to sort of roll it up into a bit of a kind of ball and then tuck it in. Okay, so now we're going to lift our bulbs. Let's put a bit more of that in actually, in the middle. Going to lift our bulbs up. Now the purpose of this is so that you can see that beautiful papery sort of texture on top of the moss. So it's not hidden, it's just sort of peeping through. And to do that, you just simply hold the moss down and gently lift your bulb and then just pop it back on top. So you hold the moss, lift the bulb and gently pop it back on top. Quite a satisfying job to do. So don't worry when you first start, when you're popping your moss in, if you feel like the bulbs are sort of hidden, doesn't matter, because we then raise them up afterwards. Okay, so now you can see them above the rim of the pot and they just look stunning and so much texture and layering, and it's just beautiful. Obviously these are so fresh, they came in the day before yesterday and they're obviously very diddy, and you can see some of the white flowers are just starting to poke through, but in a week's time, you know, they'll be sort of here and they'll be blooming and just looking so beautiful. Okay, let's start with the cherry blossom. So you'll have, I believe, 5 stems of cherry blossom in your kits, and of course your birch twigs as well. So you can trim your cherry blossom down if you want to. It's completely up to you. Sometimes you'll have longer bits in your kit or shorter bits, it just depends on the bunch. So just adding that in, that also creates, as well as sort of a lovely sort of aesthetic, it creates a sort of framework for your Muscari to weave when they grow tall. Lovely. And then adding in your birch twigs, again you can trim this down. So for example, you might get some longer bits like this, so you can take all these individual sort of stem, well not stems, what would you call them, sort of twiggy bits off the central stem if you want to. You can use secateurs or you can use your hands, whatever's easier. So there's a longer bit there, so I'm going to keep that long. It's entirely up to you how long you want to keep your birch and your cherry blossom. Obviously be mindful of the fact that your bulbs will be quite small and they will grow quite considerably taller, so you need to keep the birch and cherry a little bit higher so that it creates that framework. Okay, so that is the large white Muscari kit. Exactly the same for the little one, and I'm just going to show you how to do the trio now, and it's in essence exactly the same. So you're popping your gorgeous little pots onto their saucers. Let's move that out of the way, need to get a bigger table. Adding in your gravel, again you won't need much, just split whatever you have amongst the 3 of them. And then your compost. So it just needs to be about 1.5 centimetres perhaps below the rim of your pot. Okay. And now we can add the bulbs. So much like we did with the large Muscari kit, you just simply pull the bulbs apart. So I've got some here, so as not to bore you. And then you can do a technique where you simply twist your bulb in the palm of your hand, and it then makes your little root system into a kind of a little nest, and then simply just pop that down. Now, as I said before, you will probably have 4 bulbs. You can also take some of the root system off if you feel like it's a bit too much. They will be absolutely fine. Sorry, yes, so 4 bulbs per pot. You may have an extra 1 or 2. If you can fit it in, great. Oh, So cute. These just make the perfect tablescape. You know, imagine that sort of down the length of a table on a Sunday afternoon. And of course you can dot them about the house if you want to. So in terms of care for your Muscari, you need to keep the soil nice and damp. Water sort of every 2 days, but don't overwater so that everything's really sort of swimming. You know, keep it damp, not soggy. And then keep your bulbs, if you can, in as cool a place as possible. But it really doesn't matter. They're not going to die if they're too warm. All that will happen is that they will become a little bit leggier than, say, if you had them in a really kind of cold, or not cold, cool sort of conservatory or something. But you know, we all have our central heating on at the moment. It's still cold outside. It's not a big deal. That's where you use the twigs to sort of weave the Muscari once they've grown taller, to give them that support. Okay, so we've popped all the bulbs in, so we've got 4 in each, and now we're going to put the moss in. So again, the same as the other kits, you've got your flat moss, which is the one I'm using now, which in my opinion you will definitely use most of, so you will have more of that in your brown paper bags. The reason being that the bun moss is just quite tricky when sort of distributing it amongst the bulbs. Sorry, it's been a long day. So yes, you'll have more of the flat moss, but as you'll probably realise, you don't need a lot of moss. It's also nice, I think, when there's a little bit of compost showing through. As I've said on the other tutorials, I think it adds sort of another dimension of a receding kind of colour with the black compost against, you know, the fresh greens. Makes things more interesting. And then I'm going to pop a little bit of the sphagnum. I'm going to break that down a little bit and sort of curl it into a ball and then tuck it in. So as you can see, I've actually not used any bun moss here, but I will, do you know what, I will put some in just so that you can see in case you want to use it, because I know you guys love it. It's just sometimes it's not the best moss to use. I've taken off the root system there. So the brown bit behind, I've just taken that off, and I'm just going to sort of tuck it in. It just doesn't sit flush, which is basically the issue, but it's fine. I add it in because I know you will really like it. Even if you use it for something else in your home, then that's fine by me. Okay, so now we can add in the birch. I believe you get 9 stems of birch, of cherry blossom. I don't have 9 here. That's silly. Bear with. Sorry about that. We do now have 9 stems of cherry blossom. I don't know why I keep forgetting the cherry blossom. Anyway, so trimming down the cherry blossom. So you can pop 3 in each. Now don't cut it too small, because obviously you do want the cherry blossom to form a kind of structure and a framework for your Muscari when they grow. But you know, you don't want them sort of up here, because then it's sort of not proportionate in its size. But you know, just cut them where you think they look nice. I've probably gone for sort of like 3 or 4 inches. You can always then go higher, I think, with the birch. These just look so cute. And then with the Muscari bulbs, you can replant them in the garden once they've gone over, as I've said with the other kits. So you simply cut off the white flowers once they've gone, once they've finished and they've gone brown, or they kind of form these little black kind of, I think it's the seed basically. You can cut them down, but leave the leaves on. So leave the leaves, the green leaves on the bulbs, let those leaves go yellow. Once they've gone yellow, you can then trim them down and then plant them straight into the ground in your garden, and they should come back next spring. So it's a kit that keeps on giving, and then obviously I can guarantee that you will be using these pots for your tablescapes and for so many different things. I also think they look lovely just on their own without anything in. They're just a gorgeous sort of delicate little pot. Okay, now we're adding in the birch. So you can trim it down. You can take sort of the side shoots off the main stem, just using as much of it as possible. But keep them as tall as you like. And then once those beautiful white flowers start blooming, you can wrap them around the birch and the cherry blossom to give it that sort of structure and that support. Okay, and there we have it. So those are the 3 little Muscari kits. So you have the large white Muscari kit, and then that is exactly the same, but just a smaller version for the little white Muscari kit, and then you have the little white Muscari trio. And I really, really hope you enjoy.